Calendar week 10. Chop firewood, make stock. It is just a wafer before 5 o'clock, the one in the morning, and your otherwise equanimously even-tempered pirate is in a grump. Parked outside the front gate of the silent, often idyllic retreat which we lovingly call the Barracks, are 3 huge wood lorries, each kitted out with 750 horsepower diesel engines, 2 5-metre trailers, cranes, floodlights, and shouting men. Usually this sort of inconvenience is all mill-grist and can be easily turned into a humorous, self-deprecating though fully fulminating ramp on the iniquities of existence. But today it might just have made me grumpy. This might also be because I'm out of plant milk, and I was not ready to have a cup of tea at this time in the morning without milk, so I had coffee. Also, my thoughts are a massively disorganised jumble of nonsense. Is this why people who wake up by alarms are frequently in such a bad mood in the morning? Being yanked from your unconscious form to the living human one, cradling a coffee, being grumpy about the fact of Monday morning. It does make a lot of sense. What I do know is that the remainder of this chapter is going to be a pretty disconnected set of thoughts, badly curated. Tony's disposition. Tony is usually the grumpy one at the barracks. I've often said that he's motivated solely by his stomach, and his interactions with me are more or less, "Hurry up, human, my belly thinks my throat's being cut here." He'll give me a nudge if he thinks I'm being too slow. Nothing aggressive, just a nudge. Humans can be so dumb, and they need reminding of their role in service to pigs. The other thing that you should know about Sir Anthony, though, is that he is afraid of almost everything. Oh, and he is also the most vocal of the piggers. I've never really heard anything much from Marilyn, now I think about it. She purrs quite attractively when she gets a belly rub, but other than that she is monastically quiet. Brunhilde can be quite grunty, but Tony barks like a dog, most often just as he takes off for a run. He can go from a dead start, lying in the mud even, to 40 kilometres an hour in an instant. Not for long. If you were ever to find him chasing you, you'd only need to outrun him for about 10 metres to be safe. But he does have a turn of speed on him. He barks once, woof, springs to his feet, turning 180 degrees in the air, and he's off. Always in the opposite direction from which he was facing. Always. Anyway, he decided a couple of weeks ago to be afraid of the blue bucket that I bring them their feed in. I don't know if I'd dropped it next to him at some time and given him a shock. I can imagine that happening, but I honestly don't remember it. Perhaps there's no good reason. Maybe he just took against the way it glinted blue in the snow. Who knows what goes on in the mind of a Mangalitsa. Every time he saw it, he snorted a bark and took tail. Some small amount of coaxing and the smell of food would get him back again, but only if I had the bucket hidden behind my back. And so the skittish fellow got plenty of rubs on the snout, right between the eyes where he likes it, and some gentle mocking words, and all was well. But now he's got used to it. That is, both the bucket, which doesn't bother him in the slightest, and the nose rubs, which he now demands every morning. He comes right up to the fence when he sees me, gets a nose rub, and does his spin and bark and sprint thing, and is off again, giving me that look of, "Come on then, get on with the food thing." The Compost Chapter, Part 2. New Adventures in Potting Compost. I've been experimenting with potting compost for years now. Last year I introduced moss for water retention, and I think that it didn't really work too well. It also introduced air pockets, which is a bad thing. This year I will still be using moss, but this time it is very much desiccated and ground up. The biggest problem from last year, though, was the base. I think I want to be using a topsoil with a good structure, but weak in content. This year the mix is something approximating 40% topsoil, 20% compost, 20% sand, 15% leaf mould, 5% dried moss. None of this is weighed or measured volumetrically or any of that fancy stuff, just lobbed in by the handful, much the same way that I cook. But the question of topsoil still needed answering until I literally stumbled on the answer. Molehills. Why did I not do much on the tomato house this week? Because I lost my favourite pencil. I'm pretty confident that half of you reading this will understand exactly why that is a valid reason, and the other 3/4 will never make sense of it, no matter what I say. So I shall just leave it there. I have subsequently refound my favourite pencil, and work can continue. And Kid Brother was here, of course. We did some bookshelving work. I'll tell you about it another time, but here's a photo of our faces. He really was here. And he put a lock on the door of the guardhouse. This week in work. Later today, I'm going to write 3 lists of things to do under 3 headings: woodworking, spring clean, and growing things. Woodworking will include things like the tomato house, heat exchangers, and a roof for the toilet, and more. Spring clean might contain goodies such as edging the soft fruit beds, sweeping up leaves, clearing a wood pile or two, and sorting out seeds. And the list headed growing things will see entries such as taking cuttings, sowing seeds, making labels. Each item will have a success metric: 6 wheelbarrows of compost, or 120 bricks. And each day I'll be aiming to do 2 items in total, 1 from each of 2 of the lists. I think I was hoping to have these lists ready for your perusal, but I do not. I did find a way this week to be comfortably warm as well. Chopping wood, as we all know, is the best way to avoid the cold here. Coupling that to the smell of vegetable stock bubbling away on the wood-burning stove is a hearty and heart-warming double bill of induced coziness. This morning it is properly cold again, so I guess I should get some boiling onion skins on the hob. I just looked outside. It's frosty as heck, and the forestry people have not let up yet. Maybe you can hear their chainsaws on the voiceover. I don't want to go outside. Until next week, then. Much love. Your Pirate Ben. XO. XO. And finally, please consider being a paid subscriber. I can't try to convince you that it's worth it. That's for you to decide. The idea of quality and value exists somewhere between the thing that has been created and the person observing it. And if you think this creation is worth supporting and encouraging to the tune of €5 dollar pounds per month, then please let me know by clicking on the subscribe button right here. I saw a wonderful quote from a Booker Prize-winning author Samantha Harvey. All writers walk around in a huff thinking their work deserves more respect, which is deeply embarrassing as we've not even met. It's also probably true more often than most writers will admit to. I guess if I'm trying to imagine myself as a writer who pirates as much as a pirate who writes, then this is just another aspect of my chosen reality that I'm going to have to get used to.